I'm so incredibly mad that Herbalife took my childhood. If you're considering Herbalife or any MLM for that matter, run. Consider my story as a warning of what can happen to your kids, your family, your personal finances. Hey everyone, happy Sunday. It's your girl G here, and I'm coming at you today with another anti-MLM video. This video is going to be about Herbalife, the billion-dollar, multinational, multi-level marketing business that for some reason seems to infuriate me like no other. I currently am working on an Herbalife deep dive where I hope to go into a lot more detail when it comes to certain things like the products and their ingredients, the adverse health effects, and other pertinent information about the way that they run their business. I hope to have that video out for you guys by the end of the week, but for today, what I want to do is read you guys this Herbalife horror story. And friends, when I say horror story, this one really is horrible. Even though it's really sad, there's still a lot that we can really learn from it, and at the very least, we can see what types of effects that MLMs have, not only for the adults who are involved, but also for their children. If this seems like something that's interesting to you, then please hang out, watch the video, give a thumbs up if you like it, leave a comment below and tell me what your thoughts are. If you would like to reach out to me to share your experience with an MLM or your thoughts on anything, I'm going to include my email address below, and I'll also include my Instagram handle. Sometimes in videos I say, oh, I'll leave my social media below so you can get in touch with me on social media. That's misleading. I don't really have tons of social media accounts. The only thing I really use other than YouTube is Instagram. So if you would like to follow me there, I'll include the link below. All right, let's get started. Before we begin, just want to say thank you so much to the person who originally posted this on the anti-MLM subreddit. I really appreciate reading all of the things that others have said when it comes to their own experiences with multi-level marketing businesses, because I truly think that is the way that we are going to help people avoid getting involved with them in the first place, if they can sort of visualize and empathize with what sort of consequences they may have. So thank you, and let's get started. My family was sent into 2 bankruptcies because of Herbalife. Here's that story. I've been wanting to vent about this story for a really long time since it absolutely screwed me over. Herbalife single-handedly is the reason my family was sent into bankruptcy, leading them to not be able to provide for me in college and screw our personal finances for many years. Here's that story. In 2008 to 2009, my mother, who was the main source of income at that time, worked for a large tech company that soon sent over jobs to Singapore, consequently shipping her job overseas. We were pretty well off beforehand, lived in a nice big house, had college funds for all my siblings, and my dad was able to stay at home and take care of us while doing a side hustle on eBay. Pretty nice, but of course, 10-year-old me knew nothing of what was going on. The recession sent my family into a spiraling downhill trajectory in finances, meaning my family became incredibly desperate for any money. My dad is quite the hyper-conservative and often listens to conservative talk radio. To him, talk radio is the Bible. Anything he hears from it must be true. One day, he heard an advertisement for a health company called Herbalife. Being quite the health nut himself, he took a leap of faith and signed up. Now, my family really was struggling financially, so the leap into Herbalife was a very scary risk to take. But he was absolutely willing to do it. He started off really slow, but sooner than later recruited several family members and began to do fairly well. I remember as a kid sneaking into his office and seeing receipts that were incredibly long for products, seeing that he was purchasing nearly $600 to $800 worth of products for a given time. Yet our food and needs as kids was often pushed to the side since money was tight. Apparently, he was continually being told to keep purchasing products from his upline, that he needed to be purchasing the newest of anything to try it out. It was an absolute nightmare when he started to force us as kids to take supplements. At some point, I was taking nearly 15 to 20 different supplements a day as a preteen. As a kid, I constantly wanted to go against the grain. I always knew there was something fishy about Herbalife, but I could never put my finger on it. I adamantly refused to take supplements, drink shakes, etc., but my mom would constantly beg me, saying it was upsetting my father to deny his business like that. I distinctly remember that our last family vacation that wasn't Herbalife related was in 2007. My dad traveled to every conference he could, sometimes taking us along for the ride. But often it was spent with me watching my siblings in hotel rooms for 10 hours a day. Not gonna lie, I was kind of excited about these trips since it was a good change of pace. However, it was never any good quality time. Often, my dad would just come back to the hotel room, obsess over his points for hours, then go to bed. We never did anything as a family on these trips. We still have yet to take any family vacations since. My dad took his business incredibly seriously, and often I was told through my middle school and high school career that he couldn't make things because he was too busy with Herbalife. I can name several orchestra concerts my dad attended with his headphones on, listening in on conference calls instead of the concert. Soon, he would just straight up not show up to important events for me, mainly because of evening nutrition consultations and such. He never got to see me play in band, nor did he ever see me march in college. Eventually, in 2012, my dad decided to open a nutrition club in our small town. Here, we'd make protein shakes, offer weight loss challenges, nutrition consultations, etc. Weekends were spent helping them at the club or sometimes going door to door to put flyers across town. I prided myself on being able to say that I walked past every house in my town. Opening the nutrition club was a huge financial setback for my parents, which resulted in my parents' personal bankruptcy. The sheer amount of money that my parents spent to create this business resulted in a complete loss of our money, including all savings funds and retirement funds. Soon, food became a legitimate cause to be concerned about. My parents would struggle to afford house payments, to buy food, etc. It was an incredibly scary experience. Thankfully, we never had our house foreclosed, nor did I ever go to bed hungry, but we had several close calls. Like I said before, I remember my dad used to make huge purchases with Herbalife, and he continued to do so for years. I'd constantly see him make $600 to $800 purchases when he told me he couldn't afford my school fees. For the longest time, we had no internet or cable at our house, so I was forced to do my homework at the nutrition club, which I felt was a tactic from my dad to get me to the club so I could help him. The nutrition club became a second home for me, which I absolutely hated every second of. In 2006, I was fortunate enough to leave the house and go to college. Thankfully, I had good grades and great extracurricular activities that allowed me to receive plenty of scholarships. Unfortunately, I had to pull out a good chunk in loans since my parents were unable to provide for me. Later in 2016, my parents told me they were filing business bankruptcy for the LLC my dad created under Herbalife, shutting the nutrition club down. Since then, my dad has still worked for Herbalife. Thankfully, he's been working in other jobs and pushed Herbalife to the side, but he has an incredible academic resume and should have been pursuing bigger and better things. He keeps calling Herbalife his eventual retirement plan, but I'm so scared that I would have to support him financially one day. Unfortunately, my dad's poor financial skills still keep him with Herbalife, buying completely unnecessary products and supplements. I've been asking my family for financial support for years, but I've had to pay my way through school nearly 100%. It's been absolutely miserable, and I'm so incredibly mad that Herbalife took my childhood. If you're considering Herbalife or any MLM for that matter, run. Consider my story as a warning of what can happen to your kids, your family, your personal finances. Thank you all for listening to my story. It means the world for someone to finally listen to something I've been repressing for years. Edit. Wow, I did not expect this to blow up as much as it did. Thank you all for giving me a listen. I truly appreciate all the support and love. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Some people have reached out to ask if I have a Venmo or Cash App, but I have a job and appreciate the offers. Instead, go donate to a cause that you are passionate about. Wow. The part of this which absolutely broke my heart was when OP said, "It's been absolutely miserable, and I'm so incredibly mad that Herbalife took my childhood." Took my childhood. What OP went through is absolutely horrible, but there's a few lessons that I think we can learn from their story. The first one is the MLMs prey on people in their weakest, most vulnerable moments. This family, for example, was in an extremely difficult situation. The recession had just happened. OP's mother had recently lost her job. They were in a really desperate financial situation, and it seemed like their whole lifestyle was abruptly changing around them. And this is what caused OP's father to become involved with Herbalife. All of those conditions, as well as the fact that he was already a health nut and interested in healthy living. From there, he went on to recruit several other family members who just did the same thing to their friends and family as well. And OP's dad was spending between $600 and $800 on products regularly. What's worse is that there was a culture of forcing the kids to take these supplements as well. From an objective standpoint, this whole situation seems unfathomable. A family is hurting financially, yet somehow they find themselves in a situation where they're giving away lots of money every single month. The level of manipulation it takes to get to that point is just crazy. Now, the other lesson that we can learn from this, MLMs can hinder family time. One of MLM's main selling points is that distributors can have time freedom and choose the hours they work, giving them quality time with their children that's unmatched when compared with the likes of corporate jobs. That narrative, however, is almost 100% false, unless, of course, you're one of the top people in the company who have tens of thousands of people in your downline, so you truly don't have to work anymore. But this story shows the reality of what being an MLM will do to your family. It can keep you from being present at the important and formative events in your child's life. It can cause you to prioritize the needs of people in your MLM, such as your upline, as opposed to prioritizing the needs of your own family. It can cause you to take money that was intended for your child's college fund or your own retirement fund and instead use that on overpriced products and to start a nutrition club that's going to eventually lead you into bankruptcy. In my opinion, OP's case is actually one of the luckier ones. What I mean by that is they worked really hard, they got great grades, they were able to get scholarships and go to college and be their own person and be independent. It is unfortunate that they had to take out student loans to do that because here in the United States, the student loan situation is horrendous. That needs its own video, to be honest with you. But I want you to imagine this story, but now imagine a child who didn't get good grades. Maybe they have attention problems and they have a hard time focusing in school, so they just weren't able to get top-notch grades. Doesn't mean that they're not intelligent. So many intelligent, capable people have a hard time getting perfect grades. By the way, I'm not saying that you have to go to college. In fact, depending on what your passion is and what your interests are and what hopes you have, college may not be the right choice for you. There's so many different paths. Trade schools are great. There's just so many different paths that one can take. So I'm definitely not trying to say you have to go to college. That's the only way. But my point here is OP was able to rebuild themselves and take control of their lives. And what if there's a child who isn't able to do that for themselves? What if there's a child who suffered from an emotionally and financially unstable environment, and they grow up and they're not prepared for the real world, and they're not prepared to make decisions on their own? Isn't it possible that they are going to fall prey to another scam? In my mind, I always have that fear that this cycle is going to continue to repeat. But on the other hand, sometimes watching the people you love the most suffering through something is all the motivation that you need to not let yourself end up in that situation. Side note, if any of you are watching and your parents were involved in MLM or they still are involved in MLM, let me know what your experience was like. Do you think that you were more attracted to MLMs because of your parents' involvement? Or watching them go through that, was it something that helped steer you away from MLM? The last thing that I want to touch upon is OP's worry about potentially having to care for the father later on in life. For a lot of cultures, I know this is not a big deal whatsoever, and it's actually something that's to be expected. After all, our parents took care of us later on in life, we should take care of them. Unfortunately, in my opinion, this has become so much harder to do in more recent decades. What I mean is, the cost of living has dramatically increased, which means that it takes a lot more money to live nowadays than it did a few decades ago. So maybe 20 or more years ago, putting up your parents and taking care of them in their old age wouldn't have been such a big deal, but now that's just becoming something that's a lot harder to actually accomplish. It's something you really have to think about, you really have to plan for, whether that's you planning on how you're going to save that money, or whether it's helping your parent learn the financial skills that they're going to need to set themselves up for success. But what makes this situation so much more uncomfortable than any normal one is the why. Why did the father end up in this situation? Because you joined a legal pyramid scheme, and now the worst part is you have absolutely nothing to show for it. If it were me, I would be furious, angry, resentful, and it would be really, really difficult to know what to do. So I really feel for OP. I really do, because this is a tough situation to be in. They already lost their childhood, and now they have to worry about losing their future too. So let me pose this question to you all before we go. Do you think OP should be on the hook for taking care of the father in old age? Let me know in the comments. Well guys, let's go ahead and conclude the video here, but remember, later on in the week I'm gonna be coming at you with another Herbalife video, and we'll go more in depth and we'll talk about the cold hard facts about their business and their products. If you're still here, I hope you liked the video, and I am looking forward to seeing you in the next one. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.